Former Bayelsa State Governor Timipre Sylva has been named as the former Southern governor who was alleged to plot the coup against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There are 15 military officers involved in the coup plot who are all detained due to their involvement in the coup. But the question is, why would a former governor who happens to be the former Minister of Petroleum of State during Buhari's tenure plan a coup against a sitting president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? His residence in Abuja was raided today and his brother was arrested, with rumors that the former governor had traveled to Argentina. Media reports today also claim that the federal agency managing director transferred a huge sum of money allegedly traced to the coup funding and connected to Sylva. Soon after, Sylva's Abuja residence was reportedly raided by military and security operatives. However, Sylva's camp immediately pushed back. His media aide confirmed that there was indeed a raid, but strongly denied that Sylva had anything to do with any coup or anti-government activities. Meanwhile, in Abuja on Monday, 27th October 2027, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu officially met with his newly appointed service chiefs, including the new Chief of Army Staff, Major General Waidi Shaibu. This meeting marks the beginning of a new chapter in Nigeria's military leadership. Reports says the closed-door meeting focused on strengthening national security, counter-terrorism operations, and improving coordination across the armed forces. With the rising threat of insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, and the separatist tension in the southeast, the country is watching closely. Major General Waidi Shaibu, now the Chief of Army Staff, inherits the challenge of boosting troop morale, restructuring operations, and ensuring the army responds effectively to security threats. Analysts suggest this move signals President Tinubu's intent to take a hands-on approach with the new military leadership. Across northern Nigeria, a disturbing trend has persisted for many years. Attacks targeting Christian communities, often by armed groups and bandits. Many analysts and advocacy groups describe this as an act of ethnic and religious violence, with some calling it a form of genocide. But what is the reality on ground, and how is the government responding to it? The Bola Ahmed Tinubu government has to come out with a clear security structure to solve this problem. Reports indicate that thousands of Christians have been killed and tens of thousands displaced in recent years. Villages are often raided, homes and churches destroyed, and communities left without basic security. When Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office in May 2023, he declared that the subsidy is gone. That single statement marked the beginning of a deep economic shakeup in Nigeria. Fuel prices tripled almost overnight. Transportation costs and food prices skyrocketed. The naira fell sharply against the dollar after the government unified exchange rates. Many small businesses began shutting down due to unbearable operating costs, unemployment, and poverty levels worsened, leaving millions struggling to survive. Although Tinubu's government claimed these reforms are necessary to reset the economy, most Nigerians feel the pain far outweighs the gain. The average citizen faces daily struggles with high living costs, job scarcity, and an unstable economy. The growing frustration and lack of trust in democratic leaders have created a fertile ground for military intervention in several African nations. Nigerian government needs to sit up in order not to experience another coup in Nigeria, because the last coup that happened in Nigeria was in 1966. In recent time, many African countries have experienced coup. In Mali, for example, the military government led by Assimi Goïta recently arrested dozens of its own officers, including two generals, over an alleged coup plot. The very people in uniform who were supposed to defend the state are now under suspicion. Mali has been dealing with insurgencies for years, and the military says it's stepping in because the civilian leadership has failed. But critics argue that these arrests are just a way for them to consolidate power and to silence dissent or opposing voices. On top of that, former Prime Minister Moussa Mara was recently sentenced for discrediting the state after a public comment on social media. In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore's military regime is facing serious internal tensions after a coup attempt shook the capital earlier this year. Military factions are divided about this, and there is growing unease among the ranks. Like Mali, Burkina Faso is also grappling with jihadist insurgency that have spread across the Sahel. The military claims it needs to stay in power to restore security, but the people, they are paying the price with increasing violence and economic hardship. This isn't just a local issue. The coups in Mali and Burkina Faso are sending shockwaves across the West Africa. Neighboring countries worry about instability spilling over their countries. Migration flows and the rise of armed groups taking advantage of weak government policies. And here is a big one. These military regimes are shifting alliances, moving away from France and the West and aligning more closely with Russia. This geopolitical shift has global implications, especially for international law and regional security. In Cameroon lately, there's been a lot of political tension and unrest. Just days after President Paul Biya, Africa's longest-serving leader, was officially re-elected, violent protests have erupted across the country's major cities. Streets that were once busy with everyday life are now scenes of chaos, with barricades, burning tires, and clashes between security forces and demonstrators. Biya is 92 years old and has ruled Cameroon since 1982. This election marks his eighth term in power. Official results shows him winning with just over 53% of the votes. But the opposition is crying. Opposition leader including Chiroma Bakari rejects the results. They claim massive fraud and argue that the official outcome does not reflect the will of Cameroonian people. Their calls for calm have been drowned out by anger on the streets. The protests have been most intense in Douala, the economic hub, and Yaoundé, the capital city. At least 4 people have been reportedly lost their lives, with dozens more injured. Roads have been blocked, businesses shut down, and fear has gripped many neighborhoods. Why this unrest? For many Cameroonians, Biya's decades-long rule has meant that a generation has never experienced a leadership change. Coupled with allegations of an unfair electoral process and limited freedom of expression, the announcement of his re-election acted as a spark for widespread anger. The international community has voiced its concern. France, a key partner, condemned the violent repression of protesters and called for dialogue. Meanwhile, the Cameroonian government insists the election was fair and urges citizens to remain calm, though the tension continues to rise at the moment. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu must understand that economic hardship has a direct impact on political stability. History shows us that when citizens face extreme deprivation, discontent can quickly turn into unrest. And in a country like Nigeria, where the military has historically intervened during periods of national crisis, the stakes are even higher. A weakened economy creates a climate of uncertainty. Soldiers who see a failing government may feel justified to step in, citing a national security or public interest. At the same time, a population pushed to the edge could take to the streets in protest, sometimes violently, demanding change. Political analysts argue that Tinubu administration faces a dual threat. On one side, a potential military intervention if the armed forces perceive a governance failure, and on the other hand, mass civilian protests fueled by hunger, unemployment, and rising cost of living. Nigeria's past is riddled with coups triggered by economic despair, from military takeovers in the 1980s to the civilian uprising in recent decades. The pattern is clear. Economic hardship can act as a catalyst for drastic political change. As Nigerians struggle to make ends meet, the Tinubu's administration's economic policies will not just define the nation's prosperity, they may very well determine the security of his government. In a country with a history of rapid and sometimes violent political shifts, hardship is more than a financial issue, it is a political one. So he must play his cards very well in order to ensure that we did not go back to our history of coup. Well, what do you think of all these happenings around Nigerian politics? Please comment in this comment section. Let's have a conversation about this. Thank you.